Corporate Social Responsibility, Part 11. Is CSR expenditure mandatory every year? If Section 135 applies and the company has a CSR obligation for the financial year, then the company must comply with the provisions of Section 135, including spending the required amount or dealing with any unspent amount in accordance with Section 135 subsection 5, 135 subsection 6. Can board simply decide not to spend CSR funds? Answer is no. The board cannot avoid compliance merely by passing a resolution. If the amount remains unspent, the company must comply with the statutory provisions relating to transfer to unspent CSR account for ongoing projects or transfer a Schedule 7 fund for other cases. Can one CSR project continue for several years? The answer is yes. A project may qualify as an ongoing project for next 3 years if satisfies Rule 2 Sub-Rule 1 Clause I of CSR Rules. The board should record the reasons and approve the project timelines. Can CSR funds be invested temporarily? Answer is no. CSR funds means exclusively for approved CSR activities. The question is, invested temporarily means any diversified, it is exclusively for CSR activities. They should not be invested for any diverted for commercial purposes. So that amount has to be spent for only CSR, not temporarily. Company cannot use that. Can a company recover CSR expenditure from the beneficiaries? No. CSR is intended to benefit the society. The company should not recover the expenditure from the beneficiaries. Can CSR activities create or generate income? Yes. However, any surplus or income arising from CSR activities cannot form part of the company's business profits. It should be dealt with in accordance with the Rule 7 Sub-Rule 2 of CSR Rules. It has to be used for again CSR objects only. Can a company change its CSR project after board approval? Yes, with the valid reason. The board may modify the annual action plan based on the reasonable justification and where applicable on the recommendation of the CSR committee. So proper documentation should be maintained. Can a CSR funds be used for emergency relief? Yes. Disaster management relief, rehabilitation and reconstruction are specifically included in Schedule 7. Can CSR funds be spent in the local area only? The answer is no, but Section 135 states that the company should give preference to the local area and the areas around where it operates. But this is not an absolute legal restriction. Companies may undertake eligible CSR activities anywhere in India. Preference will be given to the local area. Can CSR projects be audited? Yes. CSR projects may be reviewed during the statutory auditor, secretarial auditor, wherever applicable, internal auditor, internal audit, regulatory inspection, board review. So proper record should therefore be maintained. What are the most common CSR non-compliance? The common non-compliance include incorrect applicability assessment and wrong computation under Section 198, spending on ineligible activities, failure to transfer unspent amounts, and no CSR verification, inadequate board approvals, and missing website disclosures, incomplete board's report, poor documentation, and delayed impact assessment. So these are all the common mistakes we will see in the companies. So what are the most common mistake made by the companies? See, treating donations as a CSR, including employee welfare expenses, including marketing expenditure, and ignoring Rule 2 Sub-Rule 1D, incorrect calculation of administrative overheads, no annual action plan, failure to maintain utilization certificate. These are the common issues, common mistakes we will see with the companies. So the key clarification on MCA, some important clarifications issued by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Schedule 7 should be interpreted liberally. Corpus contributions are not admissible as a CSR expenditure after the 2021 amendment. Now, Even contribution to zero coupon, zero principal ZCZP instruments, zero coupon, zero ZCZP instrument also comes under Schedule 7 with subscription to NGOs registered with the Social Stock Exchange. And implementing agency should obtain CSR registration mandatory. CSR expenditure should be linked to approved projects. Surplus arising from CSR activities cannot form part of business profits. These are all clarifications given by MCA. What is the role of company secretaries? Yes, in CSR, determining CSR applicability, drafting CSR policy, convening board and CSR committee meetings, preparing annual action plan, monitoring statutory timelines, website disclosures, boards reports, CSR documentation, secretarial compliance. So what is the role of the CFO? The CFO, or the person responsible for financial management, should monitor CSR expenditure and maintain financial records, ensure proper accounting, and issue the utilization certificate required under Rule 4 Sub-Rule 5. Support board reporting. So what is the role of internal audit in CSR? So internal audit may review CSR process, internal controls, fund utilization, compliance with annual action plan, documentation, monitoring reports. So the role of statutory auditor, yes, he also reviews accounting treatment of CSR expenditure, financial statement disclosures, compliance with applicable accounting and reporting requirements. The role of CSR committee is recommend the CSR policy, recommend the annual action plan, review project implementation, monitor CSR expenditure, reports to the board. So what documents should every company maintain? CSR policy, annual action plan, board resolutions, CSR committee minutes, CSR expenditure calculations, and agreements with agencies, implementing agencies, CSR 1 form verification, utilization certificates, impact assessment if it is required for the company, and annual CSR report, website disclosures. So these are all the documents. Complete CSR compliance checklist. I'll explain once again. First we have to see CSR applicability under section 135. Then computation average net profits under section 198. Calculation of 2% CSR obligation. Contribution to CSR, contribution of constitution of CSR committee if applicable. Approval of CSR policy. Approval of annual action plan. Identification of eligible CSR projects. Verification of CSR registration. Execution of agreements with implementing agencies, and monitoring of project implementation, utilization certificate obtained, impact assessment if it is required, transfer of unspent CSR amount within the prescribed timeline, board approval for annual CSR report, and website disclosure, CFO certification, and preservation of all the supporting documents. So this is a checklist. We'll see an example. Suppose ABC Limited has a CSR obligation 60 lakh. So it undertakes a constitution of classroom in a government school through the CSR registered section 8 company. The board approves the annual action plan. The implementing agency submits utilization certificate. So the project is completed within the approved timeline. So the building is handed over to the state government. So the result here is the expenditure qualifies as a CSR, subject to compliance with the section 135 CSR rules. Another case study where employees welfare. Suppose some ABC Limited spending 40 lakh rupees on employee health insurance. Company claims it is a CSR expenditure. Here the claim is incorrect because the activities benefits only employees and their families, are excluded from CSR Rule 2 Sub-Rule 1 Class D. Another case study, disaster relief. If company contributes funds for flood relief and rehabilitation through an approved implementing agency for activities covered under Schedule 7. So the expenditure is approved by the board and properly documented, so that expenditure qualifies as CSR. So these are all small examples. Hope you are clear. We have two channels, RR Corporates and other channel RR Legal Talks. please do subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you will not miss my latest videos.